We're sitting in probate guardianship mental health matters. We are here under cause number CC 2021 MH0029. This is the state of Texas for the best interest and protection of Miss Angela Miller, hereby called a proposed patient. The application alleges that the proposed patient is mentally ill and that will likely to cause serious harm to herself or to others, or will, if not treated, continue to suffer severe abnormal mental, emotional, or physical distress, and will continue to experience deterioration of her ability to function independently and is unable to make a rational and informed decision as to whether or not to submit to such treatment. Is the state of Texas present and ready? Does the state have an opening statement?
Marlise Boyles, on behalf of the District Attorney's Office, the state is present and ready, and we will waive opening statement.
All right. Is the proposed patient present and ready? Does the proposed patient have an opening statement?
Dane Norman, attorney ad litem, proposed patient, present and ready, waive an opening statement.
All right, state, you may proceed.
The state requests that the court take judicial notice of the contents in the court's file in this case, including the 2 certificates of medical examination for mental illness.
Mr. Norman, any objections?
No objection, and I'd just like to say, Angela, that can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, this is Dane Norman. I'm who you spoke to just a little bit ago, okay?
Okay.
All right, no objection, Judge.
All right, thank you. So noted. All right, you may proceed.
Your Honor, the state calls its first witness, Dr. Gore Parthy.
Dr. Gore Parthy, if I get you, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you're about to give in the matter before this court is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Boyles.
Doctor, please state your full name for the record.
My name is Tulasi Goriparthi.
Your Honor, the state requests that the proposed patient stipulate to Dr. Gore Parthy's qualifications as an expert witness in the field of psychiatry.
Mr. Norman, do you have any objections?
No objection. I'm in agreement with such stipulation.
All right, so stipulated. Thank you.
Doctor, how do you know the proposed patient?
Ms. Miller has been an inpatient on our unit, and that's how I know her.
Okay, and how long has she been on your unit?
Since the 23rd of September this year.
And have you had an opportunity to examine her?
Yes, I did.
And how many times would you say that you've met with the patient in this case?
5 or more times.
5 or more?
Mhm.
And for what are you treating her?
For schizoaffective disorder.
And is that a recognizable form of mental illness?
Yes, it is.
What are some of the defining characteristics of that illness?
Some of the characteristics that Ms. Miller was displaying was bizarre delusions, mood lability, as in changing mood without warnings, and affective, aggressiveness, verbal aggression mainly, and disorganized behavior.
And when you say bizarre delusions, can you explain to the court what you mean by that statement?
Well, when I say bizarre delusions, for example, Miss Miller told me that when she first came in, she was telling me that her daddy's name is Dr. Mendoza, Jonathan Mendoza from El Paso. He's a dentist, and that he had, pardon my French, but he had put his dick in her, and so that's how he became her daddy, and that she was an angel, and that she was put together. She came from heaven. She did not have a biological mother or biological father, and she has special abilities that she can help people, but people are not ready to accept help on the earth, and that she was shot or mauled or killed or assaulted at least 17 times. And all these 17 times, Dr. Mendoza had put her back together.
Okay. And has she been consistent with these delusions since her admission to your hospital?
She has been consistent up until yesterday. I was talking to her, even yesterday, she was saying about her not being born out of a mother's womb. She said she was found by the military and then was adopted. She does not have a biological father or a biological mother. she had said today that she is not human, not like the rest of the humans. She is from heaven and she is here to help people.
And do you have any reason to believe that the patient in this case is not human?
I have actually spoken to her adoptive father who adopted her when she was very young. That was last week. I spoke to him after her permission, and he had adopted her. I did not see the birth certificate, so I cannot vouch for whether she's an angel or not.
Okay. Now, what was the reason for the proposed patient's admission to this hospital?
She was brought on emergency detention order by police officers. And I saw her on the day, on the 23rd of September. On that day, she was illogical in speech. She was saying all this, but she was saying them in a very rapid fashion. She was switching between topics and topics. She was not oriented to time or place. She was, her mood was very labile. She would be crying at 1 minute and laughing at the other with no control over her emotions. And she did not believe that she was mentally ill or she had any problems with her emotions at that time.
What symptoms of mental illness has she been exhibiting during her admission to your hospital?
The same symptoms I explained to you, which go back to affective lability as in labile mood, wherein she would laugh at something and within a minute or two, she would be crying when she would talk about other stuff, other things. And she would be verbally aggressive. For the first few days, she was verbally aggressive, very intrusive into other people's spaces, but that has improved. She continues to express the delusional belief about her being not a human being, but from heaven. She continues to say that she is or has been killed 17 times and has been put together back by the doctor all 17 times.
Now, why are those statements that, her saying that she's from heaven and the patient stating that she has been killed 17 times and put back together? Why are statements like that concerning for you, doctor?
Because one cannot be put back. A human being cannot be put back. Medical science has not evolved to the point that when arms, legs, and then head are chopped off the body, they cannot be put
Judge,
back.
I'm going to object. He is extrapolating what she had said, that a doctor put back together. At no point did the statement say that her arms or legs were removed and were reattached, anything along those lines. He is basically extrapolating quite a bit and misstating the testimony.
I have asked her.
Hold
Okay.
on, doctor, hold on.
Hold on just a second. Before I rule on the objection, I will allow Ms. Boyles to further ask the question that she should be asking as far as what the patient has said. So, Ms. Boyles, will you follow up before I make this ruling?
Yes. Why are those delusions concerning for you? Without getting into the minutia of it, why are those delusions concerning?
They're concerning because they are not reality based.
Okay.
I will objection sustained.
Thank you, Judge.
Now, what course of treatment are you proposing as far as medication?
We are treating Ms. Miller with an antipsychotic medication called risperidone for her psychotic symptoms and delusions. We are also treating her with a mood stabilizer, Depakote, and another mood stabilizer to help with the anxiety as well, which is clonazepam. So that's the proposed treatment for her. She has been compliant with it.
And clonazepam, what class of medication would that be in?
It will be a benzodiazepine or anti-anxiety medication.
What kind of insight does she have into her mental illness?
Today, she said that she suffers from schizophrenia and that she needs medication. However, she continues to say these bizarre statements, these grandiose statements. So I would say she has very, very limited insight into her mental illness or the need for her to take medication.
Does she understand the nature of her illness and the need for treatment?
No, she does not.
Does she present a risk of causing serious harm to herself?
Not at this moment, no.
Does she present a risk of causing serious harm to others?
She has not demonstrated that on the unit, so no.
Has the proposed patient been suffering severe and abnormal mental, emotional, or physical distress because of her mental illness?
Yes, she is.
What recent acts or behaviors by the patient would indicate this distress?
She would talk about her experiences and then she would start crying. Within no time, she would start laughing. This has happened on multiple occasions with me. And without no apparent trigger, her mood just changes and then she gets distressed and then she cries.
Could someone, is it possible to say that she's just an overly emotional person and that's the reason for that?
Well, and talking about something at a particular topic, yes, that does make people sad. But the very next minute, she also starts laughing when she's switches, like very next sentence, she's laughing, which only, there is no transition of one mood to another mood. It's just a switch. It's as if somebody has switched the mood from being happy to being mad to being sad. Now that is normal, not normal range of emotions. That is abnormal. We call that labile mood or affective lability in psychiatric terms.
And what recent acts or behaviors by the patient would indicate this type of distress?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
What recent acts or behaviors by the patient would indicate this type of emotional or psychological distress?
I have witnessed it multiple times. She is just either crying or laughing, not having normal moods during conversation. I have witnessed it.
Has the proposed patient experienced mental or physical deterioration of her ability to function independently and care for herself because of her mental illness?
I am of the view, yes.
And what recent acts or behaviors by the patient indicate this deterioration?
The fact that she, up until yesterday, the fact that she is continuing to believe that she does not have an illness that needs to be treated in the hospital, up until, and then the need for continuation of medication when she goes home, her belief that she needs to use ice, in other terms, methamphetamine, to get her emotions leveled out, and her inability to control her emotions and be presentable in a social situation or otherwise.
And earlier, doctor, you said that the proposed patient had been verbally aggressive. Is that correct?
Yes, when she first came in, but she's currently, her verbal aggression has gone down.
Okay. Can she make a rational and informed decision as to whether to submit to treatment?
No, she cannot.
And is your recommendation for this patient a temporary commitment not to exceed 90 days?
Yes.
Do you believe that it would take more than 45 days?
Yes.
And would you be able to explain to the court your reason for that opinion?
Yes, Ms. Miller has been in my care also previously, 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. And at that time, between then and now, Ms. Miller has told me that she uses methamphetamine every day, and methamphetamine-induced psychosis along with schizophrenia is very hard to treat. And we have seen very minimal response to the delusional ideas that she has in the last 15 days. And so based on the history that I know of Ms. Miller and based on current presentation, I think it will take more than 45 days.
Is Sunrise Canyon Hospital the least restrictive setting for this proposed patient?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And just lastly, doctor, why can't she be treated on an outpatient basis?
Ms. Miller has said to me that she has not taken medication for quite some time when she came into the hospital. This time she very clearly told me that.
Okay, thank you, doctor. No further questions.
Mr. Norman.
Thank you, Judge. Doctor, you've had Miss Miller there in your care for approximately 2 weeks now. Is that correct?
Yes,
During that time, would you agree with me that she has made quite a bit of improvement?
I would say about 40% of the symptoms improved.
And what is it that has changed resulting in that improvement since she's been there at Sunrise Canyon?
Because she is off methamphetamine.
Is there any other change that has occurred?
Medication.
Okay,
And
let's talk about that
then
medication.
and then overall wraparound care that she receives here.
So let's talk about that medication. I believe you discussed it earlier, but what is she on?
She's on risperidone 3 milligrams twice a day, clonazepam 1 milligram twice a day, and Depakote 500 milligrams twice a day.
Okay, so let's start with the Risperdal. What is that classified as?
It is an antipsychotic medication, mainly prescribed to address her delusions and thought disorder.
Okay, and is that something that she is able to take on an outpatient basis?
Ms. Miller has not demonstrated that in the past, so
No object. That was non-responsive. My question was, is she able? The doctor, I'm asking, is a person, we're not talking about whether Miss Miller will take it, but is a person able to receive that medication on an outpatient basis?
oh yes, they will be if they
And
come
what
to
was
the patient clinic.
And I believe was the next one Depakote, or was that the third medication you'd mentioned?
Clonazepam.
Clonazepam is the next one, and what is that classified as?
Clonazepam is an anti-anxiety medication.
Okay, and is that something that she's able to take on an outpatient basis?
Yes, she can if she comes for the refills.
Okay, and then her final medication, what is
It
that
is
one classified
Depakote.
as? The
Sorry,
Depakote,
it's Depakote. It's a mood stabilizer.
is that something that's able to be taken on an outpatient basis?
If she comes to the outpatient clinic, yes, she can get refills of it and then she can take it.
Okay. Do you believe that those three medications taken in tandem will address her needs for her mental health?
I don't know if Risperdal is completely effective as at this point, because she's on maximum dose of Risperdal. Maybe we need to change Risperdal to another antipsychotic or add another antipsychotic to bolster the effect of risperidone at this point, because the delusions that she has displayed have not changed. So maybe we need a review of medication. And I was waiting for the court hearing to happen to see if she would be allowed to stay longer here, so we can actually have that discussion with her to see if she will take any other antipsychotic.
And if she were to continue to stay there, what antipsychotic would you be looking at?
I would discuss with her regarding medication that can be given in a long-acting injectable format for the ease of administration when she leaves here. And then based on her choices, me and her will make that determination.
And so if she were willing to have a long-acting injectable antipsychotic, is that something that she would not have to worry about taking on a day-to-day basis, but instead be medicated for generally 30 days?
Yes, but we have to establish the efficacy of the medication before she leaves the hospital. So we will be giving oral form of that medication. And if she starts responding to the medication and then she does not have any side effects, then we can convert that into a long-acting injectable before she leaves the hospital, so she can take it when she goes home every 30 days.
Approximately how long of an observation period do you generally prefer when switching to a long-acting injectable?
I would, switching the medication from Risperdal to another antipsychotic medication would need at least 2 to 3 weeks to see the efficacy if the medication has worked. And based on that, we can make a decision whether she can take the long-acting injectable or not.
2 to 3 weeks would be 14 to 21 days, correct?
14 to 21 days for one medication change.
Are you intending to change other medications?
I cannot say at this point because her symptoms seem treatment resistant from my experience with her.
You had stated that you had treated her approximately 18 months to 24 months ago. Is that correct?
Yes.
To your knowledge, is that the last time she had been hospitalized at Sunrise Canyon?
To Canyon, yes.
What was that?
To Sunrise Canyon, yes.
Sunrise Canyon. Okay. So to your knowledge, she's been managing essentially for the last 18 to 24 months.
I do not know that. I cannot answer that question.
Judge, I will pass the witness.
Ms. Boyles, you wish to follow up with any?
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you, pardon me, thank you, Dr. Gore-Parthy. Ms. Boyles, do you have another witness you wish to call?
No further witnesses, Your Honor. The state rests.
Thank you. Mr. Norman,
Judge, I believe at this time I'd like to call my client to testify.
okay. Ms. Miller, how are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Okay. I'm doing fine. This is a court hearing, and ma'am, I do need you to swear to tell me the truth. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Okay. I'm going to trust you. So, Mr. Norman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Angela, would you please state your full name for the record?
Angela Michelle Miller.
Okay, and Angela, you are currently at Sunrise Canyon and have been for about 2 weeks. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you feel like you have made progress since you've been there in those 2 weeks?
Yes, I feel like I have.
Okay. And so you're asking today for the court to allow you to be released to go back home. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if you are released, do you have intentions of staying on your medication?
Yes, I do. And I have intentions of coming to my follow-up appointments.
Okay. So you would intend to essentially seek treatment on an outpatient basis. Is that right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. I'm sure that there's two sides to every story, and you've heard some of the things that the doctor had said. I know that some of this may be a little bit embarrassing, but when you refer to the dentist, Dr. Jonathan Mendoza, you call
Yeah.
him your daddy, right?
Yeah,
Do you mean daddy as in your father, or is that
No.
some other nickname?
it's another nickname.
Okay, and that is something based upon a previous relationship. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
It's
who is
based upon our previous romantic relationship.
okay, and who is your father?
His name is Delton Womack.
Okay, and did he adopt you?
Yes, him and my mom adopted me when I was 3 days old from Catholic Family Services in Amarillo, Texas.
Okay, and so they are not your biological parents, correct?
No,
Do you have any sort of relationship with your biological parents?
no, I don't have any. There's not any that the government ever knew about.
Okay, so you don't know who your biological parents are, is that correct?
No, sir, the government didn't have any information regarding that.
Okay, so you understand that you do have biological parents and that you were indeed born, not, I guess, created or put together as the doctor has alleged you previously stated. Is that correct?
I mean, I assume I was born. I was in the military, and I had a lot of physicals, and so I think I meet the criteria for a human being.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad to hear that. All right. And so you are asking today that you can go home and you have your home. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I do. I live out in the country.
Okay. And you have some animals. Is that right?
Yes, I have a horse and a donkey, and I'm supposed to be having a new dog. Somebody's bringing me a new dog, so I have a new friend.
Okay. And you live alone, right?
Pardon?
You live alone. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But is there somebody that can check on you or come help you if you need them?
Yes, my dad and my stepmom.
And when you say your dad, who are we referring to?
My father, Delton Womack.
Okay. Glad to hear that. All right. And do you find that being at home is more helpful for you when it comes to your mental health?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. And
Very
would you
much
agree with
so.
me that prescription medication is more helpful for you than recreational medication such as methamphetamines?
Yes, sir, most definitely.
And would you intend to use methamphetamines if you were to be released?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
And if the doctors gave you the prescription to continue taking the medication that you are receiving right now, would you intend to take that every day?
Absolutely, every day.
Do you feel a benefit from being on that medication since your stay, during your stay at Sunrise Canyon?
Yes, I do. I feel a lot more optimistic about the future. And I can't help it that I'm an emotional person. I just am sometimes, but I feel a lot more optimistic about the future. And
And
I
do you
just,
believe that the medication has helped you feel that
yes.
way?
yes,
When you came into Sunrise Canyon, had it been a while since you had taken your medication?
yes, a very long time.
Okay. Regarding when you fall apart, what do you mean by when you fall apart?
I really don't know. I don't really know what all my, I have dreams, I have memories that are not always real memories. They're just images inside my head. That's something that's between me and God. What it all means, I don't know. God hasn't, we haven't talked about that. I have different pictures in my head about various things, and I don't know what they're all about.
Okay. And do you understand that the doctors can help you deal with those images if you talk to them about them?
Well, I didn't, yeah, I guess they could. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
sure.
is that something where you understand that maybe there are things that don't make sense that you could talk to a doctor about?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yes.
And
I
you
see that
understand,
now.
and you understand that that is a symptom of a mental health disorder, that that medication is helping, correct?
Yes, I do see that now. Yes.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell the judge as to why it is you believe that you are safe to be released and go back home to your horse and donkey and new doggy?
Yes, because me and this was in 2019. No, this was in 2020. 7 sheriff officer deputies were at my house one morning. And the day before that, I had heard God as I understand him to be in my head. And, he told me, I don't want you to hurt yourself. And that next day, 7 sheriff deputies had to come to my house because there was an intruder at my home. And that was something that they and I agreed with each and every one of them was I agreed to not hurt myself.
Okay. And do you intend to follow that agreement that you'd made with those 7 sheriff's officers and God that you would not hurt yourself?
Oh, absolutely. And I take that the reason I bring that up is because I take that very, very most personally and very seriously.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pass you over if Ms. Boyles would like to ask any questions. Okay.
Okay.
Judge, pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Boyles.
Ms. Miller, can you explain your support system that you have outside of the hospital?
Like financially or?
Well, yes, financially. Are you working?
Well, I'm on Social Security disability insurance. And because I've worked in the past and the money that I paid into is what pays for Social Security disability.
Okay, and how about as a support system with family and friends?
Well, my friend Kevin McElroy, he's a very good support system for me. He's the person that has a dog to give to me because he knows that I need a friend, and a dog is a man and a woman's best friend. And
Okay.
Now he lives in the city, you know, he's got a career, he's got his own life, but he is somebody who knows that I need a friend and that I need to be, he understands me very well.
And what
Um,
about your parents? Do you consider them a support system?
Well, my dad, he's been my payee for a very long time. And we're trying to get to go to that place called Life Run on 82nd, right off of Boston. And it's by United Supermarket. And it's where these people would be my payee instead of my dad, because my dad's getting old. He's been old for a while and he just can't handle the stress anymore.
Okay, now let's go back to September 23rd.
Okay.
And that's where you were taken to Sunrise Canyon Hospital on an emergency detention.
Okay.
Okay. Do you remember that incident at all? What led to your hospitalization?
Yes, I went across the street to the man's house that's across the highway from my house. And
Okay.
I knocked on his door and handed him a note. And he called the cops for me.
Okay.
And I couldn't speak
Excuse me?
because I couldn't speak that morning.
Okay. And why couldn't
Not
you
very
speak that
well.
morning?
I don't know.
Okay. And have you had a chance to look at that emergency detention? Do you know what the officer stated?
No.
Okay, they just stated that you endangered yourself by running and walking in the roadway due to psychotic thoughts. So has that happened besides that one time?
That didn't happen that day. I just walked across the street and I sat and the man let me inside his house and I just sat there on his couch and
Okay.
waited until the cops got there.
And were you taking medication at that point, Miss Miller?
No,
Okay, and why weren't you taking your medication?
because I didn't have any. My dad had, I've not had any support as far as, my dad has made me quit taking my medication in the past. My father has made me quit taking my medication in the past.
And do you know the reason for that?
No, I don't.
Okay, are you not
I
able
think-
to refill your medication on your own?
I have, but my mail keeps getting stolen.
Okay,
My mail is always being stolen all the time. I can't even write a letter to the president.
and how many times have you tried writing letters to the president?
Once I tried to write a letter to him. I've tried to write letters to different people in different, in the Congress and also to different, to my ex-boyfriend that's a prisoner in Lovelady, Texas. I'm not able to receive mail either. Only my deceased mother receives mail.
Okay, did she live at your house that you're currently at?
Well, I mean, she died June 20th, 2019. I think she lives up in heaven, but she's the only one that gets mail.
Okay, and I guess that was a really poorly worded question on my
No, it's
part.
okay. That's okay.
So does she currently receive mail at where you reside?
I don't. I'm not allowed to.
Okay,
For me.
so I understand that your father is your payee. Does that mean that he's the one that's in charge of picking up your medication?
No, I have it sent to me from Walgreens. It
Are
used to
you
be-
not able to drive and pick up your medication?
I would be if he would not have, if he wouldn't have stole my car and sold it.
Okay, so do you have access to transportation then, Miss Miller?
I do. I have friends that I can call.
Okay, and are they not able to take you to pick up your medication?
Judge, I would object. This
if
was
I-
asked and answered. Judge Shakespeare.
No, I haven't asked about
No.
friends or support.
Hold on. I got this. Objections overruled. She's getting to there, Mr. Norman. She hasn't answered.
Well,
This
Judge,
is,
she pointed out that she gets her medications in the mail. So asking for her to get a ride to get it
no,
is,
she's asking, can she? And that's a valid question. So the question is, can she get her father to pick up the prescriptions at Walgreens? She answered that. Does she have other family or friends that can do that? Those are valid questions. I'll allow it. Okay, please continue.
Miss Miller, do you have friends or any other family that are able to transport you to pick up your medication from Walgreens?
Yes, I do. I have one family member that lives down the road from me named Lena Womack. I
And how is
believe
she
that
related to you?
she's my dad's cousin,
Okay,
and she's a very nice woman. And I believe that she would if I asked her. And I have several friends that I believe that would, if I asked them also, because that's how I get a ride to get groceries.
okay. So then this might be a silly question, Miss Miller, but why haven't you asked them yet if you've had trouble with your father?
If what?
Why haven't you asked them to transport you to Walgreens to get your medication if your father's not driving you there?
Because I keep waiting for it to come in the mail. I keep thinking that I will, that I will get it in the mail eventually. And I don't know why I'm not. There could be other problems going on that I don't know about. I'm not really sure.
And I just have one last question. Why a change now? What has changed for you to say that this time you'll be compliant with your medication and your outpatient appointments if you haven't done so in the past?
Because I see this time that it's my responsibility to get well, to get better. And I want to, so I can get a boyfriend and I can move on with my life, and because I feel better, and because regardless of what my father thinks, he's always going to think the way that he's going to think. It doesn't matter. What matters is what I know now. And that's that I really do need to be taking my medication, and I need to be taking it every single day.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Norman, do you wish to follow up?
I don't believe so, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Norman, do you have any other witnesses you wish to call?
Judge, I have no further witnesses. I rest.
Okay, thank you. State you wish to close,
Yes, Your Honor.
please.
Judge, while Ms. Miller is not a danger to herself or others, as stated by Dr. Gore-Parthy, she does not have insight into her mental illness. And as evidenced by her continued delusions, she has been suffering severe and abnormal mental, emotional, and physical distress because of her mental illness, and has experienced mental or physical deterioration because to function independently because of her mental illness. She has not been compliant in her medication in the past. And while she has been compliant in the hospital, Dr. Gore-Parthy still feels that there is a little bit more room for improvement. He has treated Miss Miller before within the past 2 years. So he knows the type of patient he is dealing with. And therefore, I would ask that you grant this temporary commitment hearing for Miss Miller, not only based on the CMEs, but by Dr. Gore-Parthy's testimony and on the testimony of Miss Miller.
Mr. Norman, do you wish to close?
Yes, Judge.
Please.
Judge, I would like to point out that Ms. Miller has been a patient at Sunrise Canyon for approximately 2 weeks. when you look at the physician certificate medical examination that was provided to us back on, I believe it was referencing events from the 23rd until about the 26th or 27th, it was something that was far more concerning. When you look at what is being described currently in the CME that was just submitted today, as well as the testimony, you saw Ms. Miller yourself. We're not looking at whether these people are perfectly healthy and ready to join the workforce, or if they are ready to go get a driver's license. That is something that Ms. Miller is not asking us for. What she is asking us for is to continue her recovery at her home. She has admitted that she sees images in her mind that she needs a little bit of help with. And I think that that is something that will almost certainly persist, and is something she just needs to learn to understand and cope with. The medication has helped, as she has stated. She is feeling much better. She was off of her medication for quite a bit when she came into Sunrise Canyon. And she even admits that she did things that she doesn't quite understand when she was off of her medication. That is consistent with a person who is untreated for a mental health disorder. She has stated that she is now ready to go home, that she is willing to continue on the medication she is currently receiving, and that she has expressed a support system as well as a plan for how she would continue to receive those medications. If the post office is failing her, as it often does many rural Americans, then she has somebody that she would be able to call to go get her medication. It is for these reasons, Judge, that I ask that you find that she is not currently suffering by clear and convincing evidence from severe abnormal mental, emotional, or physical distress. That is the criteria we're looking at right now, not what happened 2 weeks prior, but where she is right now. And therefore, I'd ask that you deny this application and release my client.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Miller, I need to say a couple of things, and then you and I need to have a conversation, okay? So I would like to say first that the court finds that all necessary parties have been served with a copy of the application, written notices of the time and place of this hearing. It further appears to the court that Dr. Gore Parthi and Dr. Candaharia, both of whom are duly licensed to practice medicine in the state of Texas, have timely filed their medical certificates, both stating the patient is mentally ill. The court finds that all the provisions of the Texas Mental Health Code have been complied with. Okay. Can I call you Angela? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Angela. There's a few things that are kind of concerning me. Okay, but I wanted to say that first. But there's some other things that I, like you, am very optimistic about. You seem to be a very optimistic person right now, and that's a good thing. I like optimism. You stated that you're very optimistic about the future, and so am I. I'm optimistic about the future as well. The thing about the future, though, is that we kind of, within ourselves, there's a lot that we have in control of. We control a lot of our future, and it's how we behave. It's how we interact in our world. That has a lot to do with how our future is, depending on how we function in the world. The things that led up to you, that led up to that emergency detention a couple of weeks ago, you weren't functioning very well. I think you understand that, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and
Sure.
but I'm very optimistic because you reached out for help. You did. You didn't know how to, but you reached out for help. To me, that's a very good sign. It says that you get to a place where you understand that things aren't working very well right now. And so you went to that point. That was a very dark, deep, pretty depressing day, I'm guessing, for you. But you had enough within you to reach out for help. I'm very optimistic about that. That's a very good sign to me. There are still a couple of things that concern me, but also, and your attorney makes a very valid point about a couple of things as well. You know, when we talk about this mental health commitment, we look at several things to make that determination. One is, how are you doing today? And then for me, I also have to look to the future. How are you going to be tomorrow? How about the next day? How about the next 10 days, 20, 30, 45 days, 90 days? See, that's what I have to do. I have to look at you just based on this little bit of time that we've spent together. And I have to figure out, how are you going to be 45 days from now, 90 days from now? So I'll just say that I'm very optimistic. I'm like you. I'm very optimistic. I think you're on your way to being in a very, very good place. I'm very, very encouraged that you have come to this realization that you really need to be on meds. That when you're off of them, things twist and cycle out and you have no idea what's going on. And you start, these voices that you're hearing, you don't know if they're from God or from Satan. You don't know where they're from. You just know that when you're off your meds, those things get pretty loud in your mind. That being said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask that you stay where you are for just a little while longer. I think you're on a very good path, but I want to make sure that everything is really stable. It sounds like where you were even 2 days ago as to where you are today has been a remarkable difference. Very remarkable. And I'm very proud of that. I just want to make sure everything is still on that path. I'm very optimistic, just like you are. And I think you kind of want to make sure you're on the right path too. I want to see you go home very, very quickly. But I think you need to stay there just a few more days. But I want to talk to Dr. Gore-Parthy, and I want to ask him, it sounds like today, Dr. Gore-Parthy, she's on a pretty good path.
Considering where she was, Judge, 2 weeks ago to today, yes.
Yes, it's I would say a remarkable difference. And I hope, like you, I hope you, like me, are very optimistic. So what I'm going to say is that after considering all the evidence and the arguments of counsel, the court finds that the facts and allegations in the above mentioned application are true and correct. And that the court finds that the patient is mentally ill. And Angela, you agree with me that there is a mental illness. But as a result of the mental illness, that the patient will, if not treated, and there's the key, if not treated, continue to suffer severe and abnormal mental, emotional, and physical distress, and will continue to experience deterioration of her ability to function independently. All right, that's the key. We want to get you to a place where you're able to function independently. And it might mean, if you're having these issues with your dad, I think it's going to be very important that you stay connected to the counselors and to the doctors here at Sunrise Canyon. You've got to stay connected with them.
Yeah.
They're the ones they're going to help you. They're going to make sure that you've got the services that you need. If this is a bad deal with your dad, and I don't know that it is or not, I'm just listening to you say these things. But if it's bad, these are the people they're going to help you. They're going to help you figure out a way to kind of navigate through that. And it might take a while. You know, I mean, these things don't happen overnight. And but I want to give you as much time because I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that you're on a good path. Therefore, the court is going to order the patient committed to court-ordered inpatient temporary mental health services to StarCare Specialty Health System, Sunrise Canyon, Lubbock Hospital, Sunrise Canyon Hospital, Lubbock, Texas, for a period not to exceed 45 days. Dr. Gore-Parthy, I don't think at this point it rises to the level of 90, but I'll grant 45 days, but I'm optimistic that you can find a good outpatient program for her within the next few days. I would like to see that. Okay, Angela, best to you.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
I like your smile, and I like your optimism, and I'm rooting for you. All right. Is there anything further?
Nothing further, Judge. Go ahead and make sure that you take care of yourself. Okay, Angela?
Okay, thank you.
If there's nothing further, we're dismissed. Thank you. All right.
Thanks, Judge.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
It's getting pretty close.
Feels like it.
About an hour. Your Honor, are we ready for Mr. Brian Benavides?
We are.
I'll go get him now, sir.
She seems very sweet, Dr. Gorparthy. Very sweet. And this is
He does now, Judge, but.
well. That's what I'm saying. When I say seems very sweet, let me preface now. I'm sure that there was a
Challenging.
time where that wasn't that way.
Challenging. She was very challenging when she first.
Well,
came in.
but it does. I mean, all indications, even from your testimony and hearing from her, she sounds like she's on a good path. I would like to. I hope that continues.
The problem with her is that she uses methamphetamine day in and day out.
Oh, I know.
I
know.
And her father is exhausted. Poor
Yeah.
gentleman, he's into his 70s, I think. I met him once. He came here because he needed her to sign her bonds, bail bondsman, something. Or he wanted a letter for the bail bondsman because she's on a weekly, she's on a bond, and then she needs to be reporting every Thursday. So poor man came here, and then she was adopted when she was 3 days old, and she was the little princess until she was 12 years old. And after that, sudden change. He says, like a switch of a light, it suddenly changed from a very bright room to goth, and before you know, within a year, she started hearing voices. She started taping off ice in the pictures, saying everybody's watching her. So since then, he says she's completely come down, and he's heartbroken.
Well, that's classic bipolar, is it not? Where you just like one day it's like this, and the other.
Yeah, classic schizophrenia. And then that man has only got her, nobody else in his life. To listen to him was really heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
He could not get up from his chair to walk, and what he says is that she doesn't give a damn about him. She is doing stuff to him and he is at the end of his tether. He cannot take care of her anymore.
Yeah. Well, bless you and what you're doing to take care of these people. I'm really in awe of you and what you guys do out there. So thank you very much.
I signed up for it, Judge, and that's the irony of it. I signed up for it, but I don't have enough in my arsenal.
I get it.
We are very impoverished as when it comes to mental health support in this.
But I tell you what I saw today, Talasi, is I saw a woman who 2 weeks ago there was a different woman sitting here today than what was 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
that's to your credit, and that's to your team's credit.
That's to my team's credit. Yes, definitely.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I know you don't have a lot in your arsenal, but my God, if you can create those kind of changes in people, where you can get them to a place where maybe they're not going to be perfect, and we say this all the time. There's no crime. It's not a crime to be crazy.
It's
we just don't want them out there hurting themselves or hurting other people or doing. But if we can get them to a place where they recognize, first of all, recognition of that you've got a problem. That's 9 of the 10 steps right there.
It is. But then if you look at, I think Mr. Benavides is coming, but if you look at the attorney's last statement, we are not looking at what he almost mentioned was, well, we're not looking at a functioning member of the society here. We're looking at somebody who can just float by, but that's not the aim we should aim for, right? Every citizen gets same kind of privileges, gets same kind of everything, and that's what we should hope for as a society.
Oh, I'm totally with you, but I want to give you a little bit more time, at least with her. So I think I think we're on a good place. I really do. Hello, Mr. Benavides. Hello. I'm Judge Parrish. I told you that we'd see each other again. So let me call to order Lubbock County Court. We're sitting in probate, guardianship, mental health matters. We're here to cause number CC 2021 MH0024, State of Texas, for the best interest and protection of Brian Benavides. This is on an application for temporary mental health services. Mr. Benavides will hereby be called a proposed patient. Is the state of Texas present and ready? Does the state have an opening statement?
Marlise Boyles, on behalf of the District Attorney's Office, the state is present and ready, and we will waive opening statement.
Mr. Purrier, as attorney ad litem appointed by the court, are you present and ready? And do you have an opening statement?
Joffrey Purrier, attorney ad litem for the proposed patient, and we will waive opening statements, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, state, you may proceed.
The state requests that the court take judicial notice of the contents of the court's file in this case, including the physician's certificate of medical examination for mental illness.
Mr. Purrier, do you have any objections?
I've reviewed that, Your Honor, prior to today's hearing, and I do not have any objections.
Okay, so noted. Thank you. State, you may proceed.
Your Honor, the state calls its first witness, Dr. Gore Parthi.
Dr. Gore Parthi, if you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you're about to give in the matter before this court is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Boyles.
Doctor, please state your full name for the record.
My name is Tulasi Goriparthi.
Your Honor, the state requests that the proposed patient stipulate to Dr. Gore Parthi's qualifications as an expert witness in the field of psychiatry.
Mr. Purrier, any objections to the witness?
No objections, Your Honor. We'll so stipulate.
All right, thank you. All right.
Doctor, how do you know the proposed patient?
I know Mr. Benavides as my inpatient for the past month and a half.
And how long has he been at the hospital? Do you have a date for that?
I think he got admitted on the 27th of August, 2021.
And during his stay at your hospital, how many times have you been able to meet with him?
More than 10 times.
And for what are you treating him?
Schizophrenia.
And is that a recognizable form of mental illness?
Yes, it is.
And what are some of the defining characteristics of that illness?
Some of the defining characteristics in Mr. Benavides' case are thought disorder, as in unable to express his wishes or preferences at all. And prominent negative symptoms, which include apathy, lack of motivation, and poor self-care, and inability to eat and drink as per his requirements.
And what was the reason for the proposed patient's admission to your hospital?
Mr. Benavides came to our facility on the 27th of August with his mom. At the time, Mr. Benavides was mute. He was not talking. He was accompanied by his mother, but he could not tell me anything about what he was going through at the time. He was not oriented to time or place or person. He did not know where he was or was unable to express himself. We tried the communication method of talking. We also tried the communication method of writing down if there was a problem with his hearing, but he could not express himself when writing. At that time, I made a determination that he is going through a severe catatonic state of schizophrenia. And so I admitted him to the hospital at that time.
And what symptoms of mental illness has he been exhibiting during his admission to your hospital?
Mr. Benavides doesn't talk. He only answers questions in monosyllabic way, maybe a phrase. He rarely answers anything in a sentence or says anything in a sentence. There is a lot of speech delay. We ask something or we kind of express something and we have to wait for him to process that information, and we have to repeat the question or the conversation point a few times before he can say anything. And he is requiring a lot of prompts for self-care, which include brushing his teeth, include showering. He would stand in the shower, but wouldn't be able to get on with the shower. He needs prompts to say, come on, take the soap or apply the soap to your hair or to your body. And once he's prompted, he would do it. Otherwise, he would not do it. He would sit on the bed waiting to be instructed to sleep. For example, that has happened on multiple occasions all through these 40 days, 45 days. He does not talk to any person on the unit, patients or staff members. He is isolated in his own world. And he even requires prompts to eat and drink.
And why is that concerning for you, doctor?
It is concerning because something as basic as eating and drinking, if he cannot do independently. And that's concerning because that will easily end him up in a malnourished state, ending him up in a medical emergency.
Now, what course of treatment are you proposing as far as medication?
We are titrating him on a medicine called clozapine. It's an antipsychotic medication. It takes 15 to 21 days to titrate the dose of the clozapine to an effective dose. And so once we see a clinical response, we propose for him to continue taking that medication when he gets out.
What kind of insight does he have into his mental illness?
Mr. Benavides does not answer questions when it comes to it. It has to be a very simple instruction. Mr. Benavides, I do not know if he actually understands the question, if it is a long one, and it has to be yes or no answers. Based on his responses for the past 40, 45 days, I don't think he has any insight into what he's going through.
Does the proposed patient present a risk of causing harm to himself?
He has not explicitly done anything to harm himself on the unit, no.
Does the proposed patient present a risk of causing harm to others?
No.
Has the proposed patient been suffering severe and abnormal mental, emotional, or physical distress because of his mental illness?
Yes, he is.
And what recent acts or behaviors by the proposed patient would indicate this distress?
Mr. Benavides has only displayed flat affect, depressed mood for the past 45 days, no matter different kinds of things we try to engage him in, and that is concerning and distressing.
And why is that concerning and distressing, doctor?
It's concerning and distressing because simple things that we take for granted, for example, to catch a drink, he needs a lot of prompts, or to eat, he needs a lot of prompts. And so basic human functions he cannot do without prompts. That is concerning.
And has the proposed patient experienced mental or physical deterioration of his ability to function independently and care for himself because of his mental illness?
Yes.
And what recent acts or behaviors by the proposed patient would indicate this deterioration?
Basically, his inability to communicate his needs, his inability to take care of his personal hygiene, his inability to ask for food or water or eat or drink without any prompts, that is concerning.
And doctor, do you know what his support system is like outside of the hospital?
He has his mother who is actively involved in providing the support that we provide him here at home also.
And do you know if his mother works during the day or is she at home during the day?
I think she works part-time. from what
Okay.
he told me.
Can the proposed patient make a rational and informed decision as to whether to submit to treatment?
No, he cannot.
And is he currently on medication?
Yes, he is.
Is he compliant?
He is compliant.
Is your recommendation for this proposed patient temporary commitment not to exceed 90 days?
Yes, it is.
Do you believe that it would take longer than 45 days?
Yes, I believe that.
And is Sunrise Canyon Hospital the least restrictive setting for this patient?
Yes.
Do you believe that he can be treated on an outpatient basis?
No.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Puryear.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Goraparthi, good afternoon, sir. My name is Joffrey Puryear, and I just want to follow up on a few things that you mentioned. Specifically, you pointed out to the court that it was concerning to you that my client, the proposed patient, had, I think you referred to it as a flat affect. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's a clinical term to describe someone that is, could be shy or just doesn't choose to express themselves verbally. I mean, is that fair?
Well, it is a pervasive thing rather than a momentous thing. It is seen in not just in one setting, but multiple settings with the same person, with the same kind of affect over a period of days. And that's what
Okay.
we see with Mr. Benavides, that we don't see him participating in any discussions with similar age group clients or patients we have on the unit. We see that him and my interactions are the same way. He goes into the cafeteria. He's the same kind when he's eating food. He goes into groups and other activities that is off the unit. He displays the same affect there. So it's pervasive across settings.
Okay. But there's nothing wrong by itself with just choosing to be quiet or shy.
The operative word being choosing, and I don't think he is choosing to feel sad.
Okay. And you mentioned that he sometimes needs prompts for meals and for personal hygiene. And that was concerning to you as well, correct?
He always needs prompts. He always needs prompts for meals, fluids, personal hygiene. And that's why it's concerning. If it was sometimes, then it would have been an improvement because he was needing it all the time. When he came in, he continues to need it all the time. Let's say in the past 24 hours.
Okay. But you also mentioned that you prescribed him clozapine. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's an antipsychotic?
Yes, it is.
And you described that he was compliant with that medication at this point in time. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Is that medication, clozapine, is that able to be administered outside of a hospital setting?
At this moment, no, not yet.
Okay. Why is that?
Because clozapine is a medicine that need to be titrated, as in gradual increase of the dosing, as in 25 milligrams to 12.5 milligrams every day. And it's on a schedule that we have to increase the medication, and we have to test the serum levels, blood levels of the medication after we reach a particular dose. And the blood level has to be at a certain level before we can say, okay, maybe the medication will start working now. So the titration process to get it to an effective dose itself is about 25 days. And then we have to wait for the response from the medication. And before that, and there's a lot of safeguards around this medication, before we establish an effective dose of the medication, the pharmacy will not dispense it outside of the hospital. And the pharmacy needs.
How many times a day does that medicine need to be administered to be effective?
Once a night, once in the night.
Okay. So that could be administered on an outpatient basis with somebody that was compliant with taking medication. Is that fair?
If he has an all-round support, that person has an all-round support, yes.
Okay. If, for instance, they had a mother that had facilitated their being checked into your facility, that was part of his support system, that only worked part-time, somebody like that. Is that fair?
His mother said when she brought him in that she cannot deal with his illness and she couldn't take him in any further than
Objection,
that.
doctor. Hold on. That's not what I asked you. I said, if that was the situation, then that is somebody that could come up to your facility on an outpatient basis and receive that medication. Is that correct?
Okay, so Mr. Purrier, you made an objection. So
Yes,
let me rule on that. I will sustain the objection, Dr. Goraparthi. Mr. Purrier is talking about hypotheticals at this point. We're not talking about Mr. Benavidez specifically. He's talking about hypotheticals. So you can answer or not answer based on a hypothetical. So I'll sustain the objection. So you can continue, Mr. Purrier.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Goraparthi, if someone had a mother that was part of their support system, that was supportive of, initially supportive of his hospitalization, and in fact had facilitated his admission into your facility, is that medication, is that capable of being administered at your facility on an outpatient basis? Is that possible?
It's not possible yet because I am not able to determine the dose of the medication that he needs to take.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Boyles, do you wish to follow?
No further questions, Your Honor. The state rests.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Purrier, do you wish to call any witnesses?
Your Honor, if I could briefly ask Mr. Benavidez if he would like to testify. He had previously expressed to me a desire to not testify. Brian, I'm your attorney. We spoke previously. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good.
Do you want to testify today in front of Judge Parrish? Or do you want me to argue on your behalf? Do you want to testify? Okay. Your Honor, in light of my client's response, I will not be calling any witnesses, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Boyles, you wish to close?
Yes, Your Honor. I would just urge the testimony from Dr. Goraparthi.
All right, thank you. Mr. Purrier, do you wish to close?
Yes, Your Honor, very briefly. Judge, while we acknowledge that Mr. Benavidez is a schizophrenic, I've certainly reviewed Dr. Kandaharia's medical statement. Respectfully, Your Honor, it would be our position that Mr. Benavidez has been a patient at Sunrise Canyon for quite some time, that he is responsive to the medication. He is compliant with his medication. He has a support network, namely his who facilitates his admission to the facility. Only works once.
Hold on. Mr. Purrier, your signal was breaking up pretty dramatically, and we were catching about every fourth or fifth word. So
How about now, Your Honor?
a little bit better. So go ahead.
Okay.
You said you were talking about his support system.
That he has a strong support system, Your Honor, that is available, that is willing to assist Mr. Benavidez, the proposed patient, in his recovery journey. And for all those reasons, Your Honor, we would respectfully request that you deny the application and allow Mr. Benavidez to return home.
Thank you, Mr. Bergen. The court finds that all the necessary parties have been served with a copy of the application and that written notice of the time and place of this hearing appears to the court that Dr. Kandaharia and Dr. Gore-Parthy, both of whom are duly licensed to practice medicine in the state of Texas, have timely filed their medical certificates, both stating that the patient is mentally ill. The court finds that all the provisions of the Texas Mental Health Code have been complied with. After considering the evidence and the testimony presented here today, the court finds that the facts and allegations in the application are true and correct. And the court finds that the patient is mentally ill. As a result of this mental illness, that the patient will continue to suffer severe and abnormal mental, emotional, or physical distress, and will continue to experience deterioration of his ability to function independently. The court further finds that the proposed patient is unable to make a rational and informed decision as to whether or not to submit to such treatment. Therefore, the court orders that the patient is hereby committed to court-ordered inpatient temporary mental health services to Star Care Specialty Health Systems, Sunrise Canyon Hospital, Lubbock, Texas, for a period not to exceed 90 days. Is there anything further with Mr. Benavidez? All right.
No, Your Honor.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Brian, I really want you to get better, okay? All right, will you continue to work with Dr. Gore-Parthy? Will you do that? Okay. Continue to work with him and take your medication and really take care of yourself. You know, it's going to be, you know, your mom's been taking care of you and that's good. But now it's time for you to take care of yourself, okay? Are you ready to do that? Okay. All right. I believe you are. All right. Is there anything further?
Nothing further.
All right.
Nothing
If there's
further, Your Honor.
further, then we're dismissed. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, Brian.
Okay, Brian, that's it. Do you have any questions? No?